How do I help you?
How does this help us deal with people's struggles? Like, I understand what you're saying, the addiction disease model is, cannot be proven. And
What can't be proven?
Then it's a disease. That it's not a disease. But how does this help us?
How does it help people to know that a majority of people in this room quit the hardest addiction on their own? How does it help people to know that?
That's huge.
How does it help people to know that?
It doesn't.
What?
It's empowering itself.
It doesn't.
No.
You don't want to know that a majority of people addicted to the toughest thing. You want to remain ignorant of that fact.
They're not addicted.
Oh, you're so full of shit. Come on, talk sense. Don't be stupid. Don't be stupid.
Can I talk now?
No. How does it help people to know that? You. Stand up.
Because I think it points to that the people who are able to quit, they have some resources in themselves that allows them to quit.
It tells people that they have the strength to quit an addiction. Why is that a helpful thing for human beings to know?
Then we know that that's the route to approach. That's where the assistance focus. It's like what need is not being met, we need to meet, because the drug is the false. It's the wrong
way to approach your problem.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, we have that.
But you care. You're trying here. Who else raised their hand? This guy here.
Provides help.
I mean, doesn't they have all these telethons and they get a person who's with breast cancer and everybody says, that's so great. They tell everybody. But if you tell people that you quit an addiction on your own, like Barb, or they shoot you. They take you out back and shoot you. And all they have to do is go out to dinner and ask the people around the table, have they quit any addictions? And the information's right there at the table. We're avoiding the most obvious information, which is incredibly empowering. You know the word empowering? To tell people, most people have the ability to overcome an addiction on their own. You can have that power. I don't know. Yes? I don't want to say anything, but you're a lousy commie. You know, I hate to criticize people's comedy.
There it is.
Because, okay, but her point is that message could be a little bit of a double-edged sword, huh? If you say to people, we hope you quit, other people have quit, so how would you, if you were a counselor, let's switch to being a counselor, how would you deal with that problem? How can you empower and inspire people at the same time that you don't intimidate people and rid them with guilt? Not you. How do you do that? Yes. Oh, you didn't raise your hand. Oh. You. How do you do that? Come on. Any ideas? You talk, you're too smart. I know you.
I'm answering for her though.
Any of you guys want to say anything? How would you do that? How would you approach it? What's the best way as a helper to tell people, most people quit addictions, I believe you can, without kind of putting too much weight on them?
Focus on their strengths.
Focus on their strengths. What's that mean?
Look at their capacities, their abilities. What is it that energy they're putting into a certain
Oh, you, I don't know about you. I was talking to a guy today, a guy we all know and love. And he said to me, and this happens every time, you know, I have this horrible problem. I'm in charge of hiring service people to deal with residences with, you know, troubled people in them. And a lot of the workers, you know, just can't deal with these people, and they don't do their job. And I end up in a screaming match with the guy who's in charge of that. So I could say some brilliant things, couldn't I? But what do you think I should ask him? He's telling me something, a problem he has that he can't deal with. What's the first thing I should think about?
What's he doing right now that's not effective?
You know, I might start by saying, how's that working for you? Is that how you deal with other people? I could get sneaky. I could say, if people, your clients, don't perform well, do you normally scream at them as a way of trying to improve their performance? You know what I mean? Get them where it hurts. You know what I mean? Where the values are. Well, I'll make a long story short. If you ask enough questions, he actually said this to me. Well, actually, I had the same problem with the elevator guys and the supervisor, but now we have a pretty good helping relationship. So, isn't that ironic? Because what the fuck do I know about that problem? He knows a ton about it. He knows so much about it that he's already solved it once. You know, it's amazing how many... I know a woman who's been addicted to heroin for 30 years. And she went to nursing school. And, you know, she's headed for trouble. When you get out of nursing school, you try to be nurses, are always, you know, screening you. So what do you think I might ask her? I might ask her, have you ever kicked heroin? And what do you think she'll say? Virtually everybody's done it. And I said, well, what's the longest you've kicked heroin for? And she says, 2 years. So how am I going to be more of an expert on her kicking heroin than her when she's already done it before? I mean, the best thing I can do is say, what was the best thing I could do to be?
How'd you do that?
How'd you do that? What enabled you to do that? Where were you in life? I mean, even if I know something about people quitting heroin, she has to be the old-time expert on herself quitting heroin. So, what the hell were we talking about? They got me into this.
Empowering people.
Oh, how do we talk to people so that at the same time that we tell them that people can quit addiction, we don't intimidate them and load them down with baggage and guilt? How do we talk to people by empowering them? How do we encourage them to believe in themselves? Well, it's not a trick. You can actually ask them questions that show their power at the very problems that they're asking you for help with. In Margaritaville, what is
What's the DSM's definition of disease? Sorry to keep talking.
They don't have a definition of disease. DSM-4 doesn't use the term addiction. It uses the term dependence. You know, I only look like some schlub up here. I was actually on the advisory group for DSM-4. Let me ask you, how do they define remission in DSM-4 for drug and alcohol dependence? No. How do they define remission? You know what remission is? You know, recovery. But how do they define remission? Well, let me tell you how they define addiction. They have 7 criteria, one of which is withdrawal, one is tolerance, and the rest are problem-oriented, physical ailments due to a drug, trying to quit but not being able to. So they define it strictly in terms of problems. How do they define remission?
Absence of problems.
So what's that say? What does that radical document say that you didn't believe? DSM-4 doesn't define remission in terms of quitting something. It defines it in terms of reducing, minimizing, or eliminating the problems with something. Now, obviously, if you actually did quit it, that would remove the problems, okay. And that's certainly, I'm not here to tell people not